Welcome back to WCS America Round of 16 for Season 3, presented by Newegg. I'm next to Cam Dozer, and the hype is just as real as his mustache, ladies and gentlemen. So far, Cam, any surprises from the first two matches that we've seen?
I would say the biggest surprise to me came the fact that Jim was able to actually compete pretty well against Bomber. But really, I was talking with Bomber, and we've seen him a couple times at tournaments. The tired question was not just a joke. The guy's usually tired, and the time he's most vulnerable is usually his first set of the day. I think he's going to continue to get more and more dangerous.
Jim, as well, is concerned about that jet lag. But looking at the performance of Jim and HuK so far as Protoss players, with the map choices, they both have won on Overgrowth. They both have lost on King Sejong Station. And last time when I was with Todd last season, looking at these different patterns, I'm like, it doesn't really say anything yet, but we'll see where the patterns are going to line up. And you guys can let us know who you are rooting for. I asked in Twitch chat, and a guy named Infinity Pokey said Jimba. So a lot of people are rooting for both Jim and HuK on Twitch, and it's good to see that amount of fan support for both these players.
Yeah, and I still want to know who you think is going to advance into the round of 8. You can tweet at me, that's at CamDozer, D0ZER, because I also want to know the questions that you want to hear me ask them in their winner interviews going into the round of 8, because, I mean, you know, I can come up with cool questions, but really, it's for everybody at home that's watching, and so I want to know, what are you guys most interested in? And
it's great to see these personalities, these stories develop, because they will continue on into BlizzCon, and that's what's at stake here. The $25,000 is a good chunk of change for first place, but also those WCS points are huge. We want to hear from you as well in your fantasy leagues. Let us know who you've chosen. You can go to fantasy.eslgaming.com to put your leagues together. You put your league together for America, right?
Man, I blew it. I totally, so there's fantasy football going on at the same time. There's so much happening, and it was too late for me, man.
All right, well, I'll share my team with you, and then we can have the same team and root for it.
There you go.
But it's time to throw it to the commentators. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you very much, Clutch, and thank you very much, Cameron. I'm pretty pumped for this PvP. My microphone is really high. That's like the second time I do this today. It's been a while, Cap. It's been a while since I had these microphones on.
I think maybe the last time we casted together may have been the last season's WCS America.
Yes, because we went to different events. And the other event I casted, you were playing in Detroit, right?
Yes, I was playing in that. Yes. I remember that now.
It was fun. It was a good event. It was a lot of fun.
So PvP, I think you're gonna kind of drive this one, Kev.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do my best. I didn't see the games that Jim played last weekend, but what we do know is that he recently participated in a pretty big tournament in China, and he played 2 PvPs. He lost both of them. That can be a very good feeling. Now, PvP is a matchup where things often snowball. Suddenly you win 4 or 5 PvPs in a row, and you ask people like, hey, your PvP looks really good. What have you done? And they're like, I don't know. I've just been doing the same thing as before. Just suddenly things are connecting. And sometimes you lose a bunch of series in a row just when you started to feel a little better in the matchup. So I don't want to focus too much on the fact that Jim did just lose 2 PvPs. But, you know, it might still be in the back of his mind like, okay, again, this matchup, time to learn from what I did wrong last time.
Yeah, he seems to be playing maybe better than one might expect after his recent dropout in the WEC, but still a little bit shaky. Some of his games against Bomber were not quite up to the level of Jim Incredible.
No. That's true. I think like I said before, when I was standing at the social pit as well, I feel like all 2 series or all 4 or 5 matches, 6 maps we've seen already, because both series went 2-1. They've all looked kind of scrappy. It's definitely not been the flawless play. In the round of 32, we had a lot of very high executed builds, and it was almost, you know, as flawless as it gets when it comes to an online performance. But I feel today everybody perhaps getting a little nervous, or people are exhausted from the long journey they had to make. But now it's do or die. HuK wants to make it to the round of 8 for the first time in his career. It's still very doable for him, because even, you know, losing that last series, that stings a little bit. But, you know, if he just wins this PvP, there's a good chance he gets a shot at revenge against Jack.
Yeah, and the loser of this match is going home with, you know, round of 16 finish, but that's all they have to show for their time here in California. Both players looking very heavily towards that result. I mean, making it out of this group is such a big deal.
Yeah, I was having some fun earlier today with Edison. I said like, well, Edison, you have nothing to worry about, because every single time that Jim made it to the round of 16, he also made it to the round of 8. And he looked at me really confused. He's like, but only one time. I was like, yeah, He's like, he thought it was really funny. I don't think it was that funny. But you know, Jim has done it before, and since then, I felt that was sort of like a miraculous run. That was back then a fairy tale story that Jim went as far. I don't think he was that good in 2013 in the second season as we made him, but it was just really fun to hype him up that much.
Yeah.
But I think over the last year, he has definitely grown a lot as a player, and I especially think at the IEM in China, which you did cast, correct?
Yeah, in Shenzhen.
He looked good. That was an amazing run, and that was a well-deserved run as well.
Yeah, he did really well in his groups. He went through Tasia and I'm gonna say Life.
Jay, no? Oh, Life. I think you're right. I think it was Life, yeah.
And came out of his group in first place, and ended up doing quite well in that tournament. That was about
2 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he won the PvP in the quarterfinals against Sun. It was really funny because Jim played Stargate 5 games in a row, and I think Sun played Stargate 4 out of 5 games.
That must have been you loved it, didn't you?
Yeah, I was having the time of my life. I was like, great, let's wait for that first Phoenix battle. And
I've seen. I don't watch too much PvP, but I've seen a couple Stargate versus Stargate games, and that seems like possibly the craziest situation that occurs in almost any matchup.
Yeah, it's a really it's a scenario that you love when you are the guy who may drop the Stargate just before that Mothership Core or before that Stalker of your opponent, and you're gonna hate it if you're the guy who opens up with an Oracle and the other player opens up straight up Phoenix. There is definitely a chance that one out of these 3 games will see Stargate play, but I also know that, you can never be sure, but I don't think that HuK in general is the biggest Stargate player. I think he prefers Blink play, which could go very well for him against the Stargate heavy playstyle that Jim has shown in the past.
Yeah, and we won't really know. We're getting to vetoes in just a moment, and that'll give us a little bit of clue into what kind of styles and what things these players are looking for. You know, you can, in a mirror matchup, the vetoes are a little more unique to the player.
Yep.
In let's say PvZ, most Protosses are vetoing the same maps because they have the same kind of issues against Zerg. In PvP, TVT, ZVZ, players are going to be vetoing maps based on their stylistic preferences more than anything else.
Yep. If you love Stargate playing PvP, then you don't really want to play on the smallest map out there. Then you would rather play on a large map like Nimbus, where you can go for an in-base expand, and it's just easy to get away with a Stargate play. While if you love playing Blink, there's a good chance you want to play on King's Sejong Station and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's often much more of a personal preference thing than, this map is, it's good for PvP. That doesn't really mean anything because, hey, last time I checked, my other opponent is still Protoss as well. So we're just waiting until the veto process is ready, and then hopefully we can hop into this next series as soon as possible, because it's already been like a 2.5 hour broadcast. We did 2 best of 3s.
Really?
Yes. Well, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Time flies when you're casting StarCraft.
Yeah, well, we have done entire best of we have done an entire round of 32 group runs in like 2.5 hours as well.
Yeah.
Even though that was like a 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1 day.
4 Protosses?
No, yeah.
4 Zergs?
There were a couple of 4 gates, I won't deny it. Maybe a 7 gate.
Okay, HuK taking out Foxtrot. At this point, I'm comfortable to say that HuK will probably veto Foxtrot against every player in every matchup. I think he just doesn't. HuK has always struck me as more of a ladder player, and Foxtrot is one of those maps that I don't think you get enough practice playing it on the ladder. A lot of people are vetoing it, and it's just so weird that if you really want to be ready for Foxtrot, you're playing customs on it.
Yeah, HuK has been vocal about that in the past as well, that he loves to get his practice in general out of ladder and not too much off custom games. Of course, for a group like this, you definitely play a couple of custom games. So we see that Nimbus is being vetoed by Jim as well. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Yeah, those are 2 very, very large maps.
So you think maybe no Stargate?
Yeah, I would be surprised. I mean, he has done it, but Catalina is still a map where I think Stargate is very good. It's also a reasonable Blink Stalker map because there's a lot of surface area to blink into the main. This is kind of fun to start off a PvP series on Catalina. That's not something I see very often.
Yeah, and obviously this map lends itself to Blink play because of the large cliff. What are the other kind of unique aspects of this map for PvP?
It's a very vanilla answer, or it's like a very safe answer, but this is one of those maps where pretty much everything is good. The only thing that I personally I'm not a fan of on Catalina, but I know that there are a couple of Protoss players that would agree with me. It's 1 gate fast expand. I think it's a little too risky. I think it can be difficult against both Blink Stalkers and Stargate play.
Yep.
But anything else, even Dark Shrine openings, you don't see them super often. I would say 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 games you'll see a Dark Shrine opening on Catalina. But because it's such a large map, it can be difficult to scout. And often, you know, if your opponent spawns, let's say 9 o'clock, you spawn 6 o'clock, then just at like 12 o'clock in the top position on the map, you proxy your Twilight and your Dark Shrine, and it can really catch your opponent off guard.
Yep, really big map, lots of places to put things. Also, the mains are quite large, so it's a bit easier to put that warp prism, let's say, right at the edge of the base and warp a DT in, or to just kind of take advantage of the fact that there's a little bit more unexplored space in your main than there would be on other maps.
Of course, a really big series for both these guys. Jim, his best result in WCS America was a top 8 finish where he made it to the quarterfinals, lost against Jadong. That's more than a year ago. Since then, it's been rocky for him in WCS. Last year, Season 3 was eliminated in the round of 32. Season 1 this year, he didn't qualify. Season 2, he did qualify, but lost in the round of 32. And now he's back as one of the only Chinese players in the round of 16. Unfortunately, no Maxed this time. It's kind of funny how Maxed made it the previous seasons, then Jim didn't make it, and then now Jim finally qualifies again, and then Maxed didn't make it.
Yeah, it seems like there can only be one Chinese hero. For some reason, somewhere, somehow, only one of them can come out at a time.
The world is just not ready for 2 Chinese Protoss players conquering America.
You know, before Maxed and Jim, it was Shigua, who I believe he got second place against MVP in the tournament in Korea. That was
WCG 2011 in
yeah,
Busan.
some years ago. And at that time, you know, Shigua was the Chinese player, and then it kind of alternated between Jim and Maxed.
And then now suddenly, like the last few months, we saw a lot of Tutming as well.
Yep.
Tutming is definitely making a good name for himself. Perhaps he even looks the most solid out of all the Chinese right now. But what we do know is that this should be a fun PvP series. And over here at 9 o'clock, we are looking at the Red Protoss base. He's representing the evil geniuses. Give it up for HuK.
All right, guys, on Catalina, hailing from China, he is Invictus Gaming's Jim. All right. Well, they both built a pylon. So far,
I'd be very, very worried if they didn't. You see, then I'm lost, and then you're gonna have to do the analysis because if they don't start over their first pylon, well, the 10 Pro Brotch, we have seen it once in Korea by a certain Swedish Protoss.
Hopefully, never ever again.
True, there was enough drama for the
I
day.
think he sufficiently defined the meta and broke it with that build.
Hey, but you know they say like you can never be sure if something worked if you don't try it. Well, he did try it for all of us. It's nice that we got the confirmation out there that it indeed does not work on pro level.
Yes.
Boba simulators being taken on either side already, no surprises. It's such a large map that, you know, I'm still expecting HuK to go for a one gate Twilight build because I just feel that that's kind of HuK's playstyle. HuK likes to be active with units out on the map. He likes to see what's happening, and as soon as you have it, like Twilight opening is not bad against anything. The only thing that the one gate Twilight opening is not perfect against, that is if your blink is your follow-up, is one gate fast expand followed up by a very quick robotics facility, because then the Immortals will keep your main and your natural safe. But even that is not a disastrous scenario, so I think HuK will go one gate Twilight. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jim does something a little crazy, maybe one gate Stargate or maybe even Dark Shrine.
Yeah, and the Probe Scout is going to check the wrong base right now. HuK is actually opting not to scout at all. He's going to be getting that fast second gateway and probably going to put on a fair amount of Stalker pressure in just a moment.
Yeah, 2 gateways is also really solid. You can open up with 3 Stalkers, maybe even 5. You can still go 2 gate Twilight or 2 gate Expand. That's a little safer than the 1 gate Expand. Or if HuK really wants to, he can put on a little bit of pressure and then still add another additional gateway, so it turns into a 3 gate pressure.
Hey, there's a pylon. You see it?
Mm-hmm. That seems like a Stargate pylon.
Yeah,
to
it
me.
looks like a Stargate pylon for sure.
It smells like a Stargate pylon too.
It tastes like a Stargate pylon.
Looks.
He's got the gas, yeah, 150 gas. Going into that Stargate. Gonna cozy up next to that pylon here, and HuK is just now He's actually not even probe scouting. He is choosing to
Ooh.
Mothership Core scout.
That Mothership Core is going on a small adventure. It's not really on course to see this Stargate, and I don't think it will, but this probe already looks suspicious to me. That probe is like the dog when they tear up a pillow. It's like, I didn't do anything, don't go in that room.
And HuK's going to keep that probe out. The probe is... I think he confirmed that there's no nexus in the natural. HuK is now using the Mothership Core to scout the main of Jim.
HuK is adding another gateway, so it is indeed going to be straight up 3 gateway pressure. This is something that MC has done a lot in the past. Also like to do this build.
Oh, he's... Wait, is he going to see it? Where's this Mothership Core
Oh,
going?
it's so close. If he would have just flown southbound, then he would have seen it.
Yeah.
He somehow avoids it. This can backfire for HuK if he brings everything out, but he's sending the Mothership Core back home, which is a good thing. If he sends it away, then it's bad, because then the Oracle is going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, I think the Mothership Core is basically just to check for where Jim is spawning. That allows him to time out this aggressive pylon a little bit better and to put the Stalkers in position. The Mothership Core will be in position to Photon Overcharge against this Oracle, but it's all about the reaction time.
Yeah, he should be fine. I think he will be fine. Needs Photon Overcharge immediately. Actually, HuK is occupied with his Stalkers on the other side of the map. Did he just kill the Mothership Core? I think he just killed the Mothership Core of Jim. I was focusing on the Oracle on the other side of the map. Now Jim is worried about this, miscontrolling his Oracle, shooting at the Nexus. I think this is a disaster for Jim.
Yeah.
Jim lost his Mothership Core. Jim might just straight up lose the game over here.
Without the Photon Overcharge, it's going to be so hard for him to stabilize against HuK's reinforcements here. You can see 3 more Stalkers coming across the map.
I think it's game over. I think HuK is going to be able to wipe in more units than Jim, who already lost a little bit of economy, is forced to pull the probes as well. HuK has more gateway units, more Stalkers are still outside of the natural. HuK can still use those 2 extra Stalkers, and I really think this is game. What a good block there on the ramp as well.
Yeah, and it looks like now HuK is moving in. The Mothership Core is probably going to get sniped. He's going to keep fighting all these reinforcements from Jim, and Jim is just frantically chrono boosting everything he can. GG! HuK very quickly takes game number 1.
Yeah, he got the Mothership Core snipe off. I was focused on the main base of HuK because I want to see how much damage the Oracle does, and then I saw something die, and I was like, please don't tell me that was the Mothership Core, but it was the Mothership Core. And if you go for a build like this, 1-gate proxy Stargate, you have obviously less units than an opponent who opens up straight up 3-gate.
Yeah.
So you need that Photon Overcharge to buy the additional time for yourself, and maybe then you can use your Stargate to force a defensive warp in or 2 for HuK as soon as Photon Overcharge expires. But you really, really, really need a defensive Photon Overcharge if you go 1-gate Stargate. And if you don't have it, well...
And it really all came down to the fact that when the first time Jim saw those Stalkers was also basically the same time he was trying to micro the Oracle. Yeah. And so the Mothership Core didn't react quite quickly enough, wasn't able to get to safety, wasn't able to trigger that Photon Overcharge in time. And from there, it just snowballs out of control. There's just no way for Jim to stabilize against that kind of pressure. Yep. You can see HuK, he's breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief there, but he's still got at least 1 more game to go before he's even in contention for that final spot in the group.
That is such a sweet victory, though. That is kind of like a ladder victory. When you start playing your first game of the day and you play PvP and you're like, I'm just gonna, keep it simple for myself, put on some 3-gateway pressure and I'll see where it goes. And the moment you snipe that Mothership Core, then you already know that you're pretty much money. There's no build other than the exact same build that is going to be good against your opening if he doesn't have a Photon Overcharge anymore. So HuK gets a very quick and easy game 1, and above all didn't even really reveal too much about his own playstyle in PvP, because 2-gate into another gate into getting some pressure done is one of the most common openings in this matchup, and doesn't really say anything about your preferable tech choices.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's a nice, easy way to start off the series. It could have gone. You can kind of imagine how that situation could have easily gone in Jim's favor.
Yep.
He keeps the Mothership Core back. It stays alive. He Photon Overcharges. He's got 3 gateways coming up, so he'll be able to kind of stabilize against HuK's units there. And then the Oracle gives him a lot of pressure on the map. He's going to force some units at home, keep the Mothership Core at home, and then you can see that it could easily come into a position where they're kind of equal, but Jim maybe with a slight probe or tech advantage.
Totally agree. It could have been equal, but with the only advantage Jim having a Stargate out on the map and having an Oracle or 2, which will always force HuK to keep units at home and will give Jim more map presence. But, that is what if and ifs don't really matter in PvP. As that was a PvP in all its glory, like we like to say. Either way, we're getting ready for game number 2. As you guys can see, we're already loaded into Overgrowth, and we're looking at the Brace of our red Protoss player. He's representing the evil geniuses. Give it up for HuK.
And in the top right-hand corner, he's down 0-1, possibly one game from elimination. Give it up for Jim.
Of course, after this series, we'll be getting ready for our winners match, which will be between Czech and Bomber, and then eventually we're going to have a deciders match to determine who is going to be the second player to qualify for WCS America round of 8, which is pretty far away. It's a couple of weeks away. It's not around the corner. It's nice knowing whenever you go back home that you will make another journey to wherever the finals will be.
Whoa, wait, what? Are the finals not here?
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't think it's been announced.
Interesting.
There's a good chance that it will be, but hey, I don't want to review anything.
This is misleading information that everybody assumes to be true, and probably will end up being, whatever. All right, anyway, double gas, double gas. So it looks like about the same openings from both players. Yeah, pretty much exactly what we saw from the last game, except probably Jim's not going to proxy a Stargate.
No, Overgrowth not really a map where you want to do that. It's quite easy to scout most potential proxy locations, and above all, it's a small map.
Double gateway from HuK, so this actually looks exactly the same as what he did in the last game, and Jim's going to see that second gateway, so he should be able to prepare for it accordingly.
Jim can do the exact same thing if he wants to. He can drop another gateway, but in general you can still defend against 2 gateway openings, or even 2 gateway that turns into 3 gate pressure with 1 gate tech building, either Robo or Twilight, and you still stabilize. Even a Stargate can still keep you safe. Stargate is a little tricky, but it's doable.
And Jim's actually going to go for the early Sentry, so he's going to be playing the more defensive style in this series, whereas HuK is going for that early Stalker that's going to allow him to do some additional pressure. It's more consistent with that double gateway opening, and he's actually taken off some on gas, so HuK is now only mining 2 on each gas geyser.
Yeah, there is a good chance that he indeed does the exact same thing, another 3 gateway pressure. Team. There is another proxy pylon going down on the left top side of this map, which I'm a little bit surprised by. Jim could try to do the exact same thing, but I don't think that's very smart, because HuK will most likely be checking for proxies, and he's already getting relatively close.
Yeah, and he's going to see this. Yeah, wow, that mothership core is literally going exactly there, and he's going to see the Stargate, just as it starts. Jim, you might as well just cancel it, but I'm not actually sure Jim knows that HuK saw it.
I don't think he did. The vision of that.
I don't know if Jim actually saw the mothership core, and that's really good for HuK, because if the Stargate finishes but can't actually build any units at all, that's going to put HuK in a great position.
HuK is adding his 3rd gateway once more in his main base, so HuK can do the exact same thing, cancelling the Stargate. Yeah, HuK is just waiting. HuK wants that Stargate to finish, and then he wants to snipe the pylon, which is really smart. He's setting himself up in a good position. I love this play from HuK. Jim is completely unaware of what is going on. And this is the last thing you ever want to see when your Stargate finishes. Like, oh, come on. Really?
So he's going to kill the pylon. The Oracle's going to get canceled. And now Jim is going to be forced to defend these 2 Nexuses that he has on basically just 1 gateway.
I think that's impossible.
The 2nd and 3rd gateway are just so far away, and HuK has so many aggressive pylons. Warp Gate is now finishing for him, and he's going to be moving in.
I feel this is a scenario where Jim can be very happy if he's satisfied, if he stabilizes on the high ground without taking any damage. So stabilizing on the low ground seems like an impossible mission to me. If I was him, I really wouldn't even bother trying to keep this Nexus alive. Just let it be there as bait, absorb some damage. He's actually going to let it finish, use his photon overcharge. I think this can backfire because he doesn't have Immortals in production yet or something.
Yeah, he doesn't have he doesn't really have any way to deflect these Stalkers. There's just not quite enough damage output. The mothership core is going to go down here, and HuK's going to be forced to back away, but he's going to be able to make a lot more units.
He has more units already, and around there on the same amount of gateways. There is the first Immortal in production, but I think it's going to be a little late to the party. And I think that HuK can go in when there is, like, let's say 10-15 seconds left on this photon overcharge. One more warp in for HuK, and then he can just push the issue and straight up win. And of course, let's not forget that Blink is also halfway done. So even if he somehow in a magical world won't kill this Nexus, 2 more sentries with 4 sentries. No, HuK is getting the sentry. HuK will get the Nexus. That's inevitable.
He's going to force field the units, force them down below, no photon overcharge, and HuK is moving in for the kill. The Immortal's coming out. I'm not sure. Can Jim hold this?
Nah, he can't defend the Nexus, and Jim can be happy, I think, if he stabilizes after all, that he just doesn't straight up die, because HuK still has more units. The force fields are working in HuK's favor as well. HuK's even adding a 4th gateway behind this. There goes the Nexus, and HuK is just in a phenomenal position now. The Mothership Core is a little bit exposed. That is a good time warp, though.
Yeah, and now Jim is going out to meet HuK's army, maybe feeling a little bit distraught after losing the Nexus. Feels like he needs to get some kind of compensation, and the Immortal getting focus fired down, and HuK now has a decisive Stalker advantage. It
He
looks
has Blink
like
soon. That's the most important thing. Even if he loses this fight temporarily now, he's going to warp in 3-4 more Stalkers, and then he's going to have 6-7 Blink Stalkers against 5 non-Blink Stalkers. And I think a lot of these Stalkers from Jim are going to die as well. And I think this is almost game. I don't see how Jim can stabilize behind this.
Yeah, HuK just has such a better army right now, better tech. Jim really doesn't have a lot going for him at this moment. He's doing whatever he can. GG! HuK takes the series 2-0 in relatively straightforward games, and now Jim is going home.
That was a very decisive victory indeed for HuK, and that is indeed the end for Jim as well. His run in WCS America Season 3 and entire 2014 comes to an end. It was still fun to see Jim make it to the round of 16. He played excellent in his round of 32 matches, which was a surprising group, but he defeated Nesty twice in that one, and that is of course impressive on its own. But unfortunately for Jim, today was not his day. I think that if you ask HuK about that series, I think he will say that was one of the easier PvP series that he has won in a while.
Yep.
First game, sniping the Mothership Core, we all know that feeling. It's a lovely feeling. And in game 2, scouts the Stargate. The Stargate didn't see that units actually spotted it.
So smart. So smart for HuK to wait like that and basically force his opponent into a position that was so unfavorable.
Yeah, I do still think that even after that, things looked good for HuK. Killing a Stargate that literally did nothing for you. It's an investment of a pylon and a Stargate, and you get nothing out of it. That's really bad for Jim. Then getting a Nexus and having to cancel it at 98%, that's also very bad. But in the end, you still rather do that than straight up lose the game. I just didn't see a world where he would ever be able to stabilize with only one gate, a proxy Stargate, waste of money, and then a Nexus, which is also a big investment. While he's playing against a guy that will at least have 2 gateways. He was aware of that.
Yep.
And there's a very high chance that he has another gateway behind it.
I think, kind of going off of what you said, the big picture here is that Jim was not really adapting moment by moment as well as HuK was. And that probably has a lot to do with his mental state. He's obviously practiced that build, and he had it ready to go. And once there was that kink in the build, he wasn't changing it up to accommodate for all these new variables that were in play. The 2 gateways, the Stargate not doing anything at all. Like, that's such an unusual...
That's a doom scenario.
Yeah, well, for your Stargate to literally do nothing, it basically means that your opponent was able to scout it, but you weren't able to know that they scouted it.
Yeah.
Because if Jim had known the Mothership Core saw it, he would have canceled it immediately. You could redivert those resources into something more useful.
True, and things went from bad to worse, because normally he uses that Stargate unit to see the main base of HuK, and then he will know the amount of gateways. Now he didn't know, and the fact that HuK went for 3 gateways was a double doom scenario for Jim.
Yep.
Either way, not a good series for Jim, but an excellent series for HuK. He will advance, and he will play in another series later today against the loser of Czech versus Bomber, which is going to be our next series. But for now, we're going to throw it over to Josh and Nate, who are standing in the social pit. What's going on, boys?
I think, gentlemen, what's going on is how fast that match ended, that aggression. Battle number 1 with HuK and Catalina. And then game 2 seemed like a desperation move coming out of Jim with that Stargate.
I mean, we know the Chinese players love their Stargate play, but the way that whole match played out, just very quick, aggressive, sharp builds from HuK. And on Jim's part, you're playing on a small map, you try to hide a Stargate, there's not as much area that you need to look around as HuK to find that and subsequently shut it down.
Well, Jim had an impressive run in all the WCS seasons this year. I'm sure he's going to continue to compete into next year, and we wish him the best of luck. And we thank him for his great sportsmanship since he's been here. He's a fun guy to talk to. So is his translator, Edison, great representatives, of Invictus Gaming. We've had Tudming in the past. We also had Max Said. So hopefully China will continue to be a presence next year. Well, the next matchup is Bomber versus Czech. And 2 Terran players, man, it's tough to see if Czech's going to do it. But Bomber was not looking at the top of his game that first series that he had.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that bomber confidence comes into play. We've been talking a lot today about things like jet lag when we look at Jim especially, but Bomber was the clear favorite for this group. He made it to the second place of last season. I expect to see him continue to be really stable. He found himself really far behind in a lot of Terran versus Zergs that he played in the playoffs of last season of WCS, but he's a very hard guy to kill. Check, he's going to need to bust out something crazy because Bomber does not play like your average Terran.
Yeah, if there is anything that Czech has been hiding up his sleeves, this is the match that he needs to unleash that. Because Bomber, again, looking at the storyline, the road to BlizzCon is in a great spot in his placement right now for WCS. I think if he even makes it onto the round of 8 or even stays in the round of 16, he's still going to go to BlizzCon. Every other player has to make it to first place. So, in the end, Bomber's still looking very strong as a Terran player, and we'll see him at BlizzCon almost no matter what. These other players have more to prove for WCS America. Looking at, again, ladies and gentlemen, what Newegg is showcasing right now. You saw those promo codes a little bit earlier. You can check out all the different merchandise and vendors on the Twitch page if you scroll down. But make sure to head to esl.gg/Newegg Esports. And I know when you heard about Newegg, you got pretty excited. I'm pretty excited as well. It's great to have them as a sponsor. Nathanius, with Bomber versus Czech, any other predictions you'd like to make?
I think this is a match Czech wants to win more. Like, if Czech got out of this group, he would rather it be this way, not just because he has to play another series, but his match against HuK was very close. There was a really good couple moments where HuK could have taken that. And I think the last thing that Czech wants to do is have to go up against HuK again, because I think Bomber would have a much better chance against the Protoss player if that were to be the final match.
Well, HuK is definitely one of the fan favorites of this group, and he's still alive. We'll see him in the decider match. But next up, it's Bomber versus Czech after this. Stay tuned.